Hi everyone, this is an instructional video to show you how to test interaction effects in SPSS. By the end of this lecture, you'll be able to test for main effects and interaction effects, and also you'll be able to graph and write up your results. And so all the files I'll be using today will be posted on Blackboard, so you'll be able to repeat the steps I'm going to show you in a few minutes in the comfort of your home. And so specifically the files I'll be using will be 420 data analysis sheet, then the dataset 3 ANOVA SPSS file, the interaction graph, and lastly the interaction write-up. So I'm going to start by opening the ANOVA data set, which leads me to this window over here. Of interest, there's two independent variables that I'm calling satisfaction and sex dream. And so just to give you a quick idea of what they are, so people were coded 1 if they wrote an essay about how dissatisfied they are with regards to their romantic partner, and they were coded 2 if they wrote an essay in which they said they were satisfied about their romantic partner. In the sex dream, for the sex dream manipulation, people were coded 1 if they wrote a neutral essay, and 2 if they wrote about a sex dream they had with one of their romantic partner, and then I measured how attracted they feel toward their romantic partner. Okay, so the data file looks like this. So for the satisfaction independent variable, people are coded 1 and 2. For the sex dream variable, the same thing. People are coded also 1 and 2. And lastly, I have this continuous variable for the love column. Okay, so to do the interaction analysis, I'm going to click on Analyze, General Linear Model, and Univariate. And in this window, I'm going to plug in my two independent variables, so satisfaction and sex dream. Okay, using this arrow over here, and the dependent variable in that case will be love, so it goes in this box. And then I can ask SPSS to plot the results. So I'm going to put sex dream on the horizontal axis and satisfaction on separate lines, and click Add and Continue. And lastly, I might be interested in getting the mean and standard deviation for all my conditions. So in order to get this, I'm going to click on the Options, and let me just backtrack for a second. Click on Overall, click on this arrow to put it here, and click on Descriptive Statistics and Estimates of effect size. Continue, and when you're done, you can click OK to run your model. And this is how the output looks like. In the first table, I have the number of participants per condition. In the second table, in the descriptive statistics table, I get the mean and standard deviation for every conditions. And more importantly, I have the between subjects effect table here, in which I'll be able to tell whether my main effects are significant and whether my interaction effect is significant. So let's have a look at this. So in for the satisfaction independent variable, I can see that it has an effect on perceived attraction, perceived love, because the p-value here is below 0.05. It's actually 0.02. The sex dream manipulation, however, didn't seem to have that much of an effect, because the significance value is 0.3. Okay, but more importantly, we're looking at the interaction effect, which is the satisfaction times sex dream interaction term, and the significance of this term is 0.09, so way below 0.05. So therefore I can conclude that my interaction effect has a significant effect. Okay, and so if we look at the data here, clearly the lines are not parallel, so that suggests that my interaction, that I have an interaction. Perhaps the next question, since my interaction is significant, is whether the difference between those 2 points here is significant, and whether this difference here is significant. So, intuitively I can tell, I can give you the answer, but one needs to test it statistically in order to be able to conclude that these differences, or this perhaps difference, is significant or not. Okay, so in order to do this, I need to do some simple effects analysis, and here's how you do it. You click on Analyze, General Linear Model, Univariate, and you need to click on Paste to bring up the syntax. Okay, the syntax is just perhaps a more sophisticated way of telling SPSS what type of analysis you want to do. Okay, and I'm going to put a 2 space between the print line here, and the criteria alpha line here. Okay, and I'm going to pull up the Word document, the 420 data analysis sheet LeFrak document, And if you go on page 3, just right here, if you see like on page 2, simple effects analysis, just right here, there's two lines of codes you can actually copy, and we're gonna paste them in the syntax. Okay, in the space I've put here. Okay. Once you've done that, you can see that the two lines of columns of codes I've just added refer to IV1 and IV2. Okay, several times. So I need to basically change those with the actual name of my variables. So in that case, IV1 is satisfaction. So I can copy paste it every time I see IV1. If you tell the computer this is my variable of interest. Oops. IV1 again. And same thing for IV2. In that case, it is sex dream. So every time I see IV2, I copy paste it. Once I'm done with these steps, I can simply highlight the syntax and click the green arrow in order to run the model. And essentially, I'll be giving the same output as before. The data haven't changed. The only thing I have extra here is this table, which is called pairwise comparison. Okay, so here I can see that when people had no sex dream, so the neutral condition, there was no difference between the low satisfaction and the high satisfaction condition. I can tell you this because the significance value is 0.79. Okay, so it's way above 0.5. However, when people wrote about sex dreams with their romantic partner, there was a statistically significant difference between the dissatisfied and the satisfied condition because the p-value is 0.01. Okay, so in other words, if I go back to the graph over here, this difference here is that the p-value is 0.79, so this is not significant, but this difference is significant. Okay, and I would suggest that you do not use this graph here for your research proposal or your final paper, and also for publication. You need to edit this this graph to make it look proper. And one way of doing that is simply using Excel. So here I have an Excel file in which I've just plugged in the mean for all conditions. I've used the descriptive statistics table right here, and I've basically put in the mean, so 503, 498, and so on and so forth. Okay, and if I highlight these columns and those numbers and click insert and column and 2D column, I can have a graph that looks like this. Okay, we're almost there. We just need to format it slightly. So if I click on design, on the design tab, I have to find this one here. Okay, so it looks a bit better. I'm going to remove the title on top because remember, in APA style, to respect APA style, you need to put the name of the figure at the bottom of your figure, not on top. I can change the axis here for love, since that was my dependent variable. That is the sex dream variable, so I'm going to write it here. And you go, you got a graph for it. And you can also make this bigger, you can edit it, and so on and so forth. But that tells you very quickly, you know, in a nutshell, how to perform, how to do a graph in Excel. Okay. So now the question is, how do we write up all this? So in the write-up, interaction write-up file here, I give you an example of how to write up those data. Okay. So here I'm saying in this text that a 2 satisfaction low versus high times 2 sex dream no versus yes between subjects ANOVA was conducted in romantic love. Results indicated no main effects of sex dream. And here, if I look at sex dream, I wrote 1, 1 and 16. Those are the degrees of freedom of my test. So this is 1 right here and 1 and 16, which is the error. Okay, not the total, but the error, degrees of freedom. And the value for sex dream for the F-test was 108, as you can see here in the output, and p-value was 0.3. Okay. However, results indicated a main effect of satisfaction. So again, I plug in the degrees of freedom, the value of satisfaction, which is 520, and the p-value. Here I say it's below 0.05, and I've also added this here. So this is the eta square, the partial eta square. So if you see for satisfaction, the eta square is 0.04. So that means 4% of the variance is explained by this sole variable. Okay, and then I say participants in the low satisfaction condition reported less love than the high satisfaction condition. And here I've included the mean and standard deviation for these conditions using the descriptive statistics table right here in the output. Okay, and then also I've included the eta square for the interaction term. If your interaction term is not significant, so let's say for example this was above 0.05, you don't need to run the simple effects analysis, okay, because your interaction is not significant. However, if you do have a significant interaction, you do have to do the extra steps and conduct the simple effects analysis. And here in that case, I'll report them the same way as I did here on top. So simple effects analysis were conducted to test whether participants would experience greater love in a no-sex dream condition as a function of the manipulation of satisfaction. As expected, in a no-sex dream condition, there was no difference. And then lastly, I say here, however, in lines with our prediction, participant in the sex dream condition reported greater love in the high satisfaction condition than the low satisfaction condition. And I write this value here, which is taken from the pairwise comparison test. No, that's not true. It's taken from the univariate test here. So in that case, I wrote 116 for degrees of freedom, F-test 12.18, and a significance value. So this is it, folks. So this is how you would test for the interaction effects using XPSS, how you would graph the results, and how you would write it up. Thank you for watching.